So I talked to Terrace about this. Tell me how this lines up with your timeline. But he was saying that he was doing To Pimp a Butterfly. He was also doing his solo album, Velvet Portraits. And you hit him up and wanted to play him the Epic, right? So you like came over and like showed him the Epic. And then he said, it obviously blew him away. And then he asked you, do you do string arrangements for other people? And you were like, no, right? I haven't really done that. And he was like, okay, I want to get you on To Pimp a Butterfly, right? And he was saying at the time, he was like thinking about having string arrangements on it, but he wasn't really sure. But in hearing the Epic, that's what made him, because the Epic's not out yet at that time, that's what made him call you and be like, yo, come to the studio and do these string arrangements. So what is your story of how did you get on To Pimp a Butterfly?
He was working on Velvet Portraits. And actually, I came to record something for that, I believe. So I played him the Epic. And he was like, oh, man, this is dope. Who did the strings? I was like, I did the strings. And so, like, when I was in college, that's what I studied. I studied composition. And so none of my friends didn't really realize that whole part of, like, what I was into. And so way back before that, we did a live record at Fifth Street Dicks. And this is when I was playing with Gerald Wilson. And Brandon used to have some string patches that he would just kind of pull in and out. And so Gerald Wilson, we talked a lot about orchestral music when I would go to his house. I would go to his house a lot just to like, he would show me songs. He would play me some of his old, like records that were hard to get and stuff. And so he knew that I was really into orchestral music. And so when he heard the strings, he thought they were real strings. And he was like, oh, you got strings. I was like, oh, no, that's a keyboard.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, man, you should put some strings on your music. It sounds good. And that just stuck in my head, you know. And so when I was making this album, I really wanted to include that aspect of, you know, who I was as a musician. And so, yeah. So Terrace didn't know that I wrote for strings and stuff like that. And so, yeah, then he was like, man, you know, I'm working on this new Kendrick record. You want to come write some strings for it? I was like, yeah. And so he called me, and yeah, like you said, like they initially had like one song, just Mortal Man, which is the last song on the record.
Yep.
And they wanted strings on that. And so it was Terrace, Soundwave, Kendrick, I think Taz was there, maybe. I forget who else was there, but it was quite a few people in the room. And they started playing the record because they wanted me to understand Mortal Man. So they played me like the whole record. And as they were playing it, they were like, ooh, yeah, you should put something on this. And that one. Yeah. And that one. And that's how I ended up, you know, working on, you know, multiple songs and stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you first heard To Pimp a Butterfly back with your strings on it?
I mean, when I heard started with before the strings, I was like, this is crazy. And then, you know, when I started working on the strings, you know, the thing that was, you know, me and Terrace had worked on a lot of records together. And normally, the normal thing was like, you know, both Terrace and me like had this thing of like sneaking in kind of non-mainstream stuff into mainstream albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got there, Terrace was like, oh man, nah, man, you could do anything on here. And I remember it took me a minute to really start, you know, and he was, you know, and as I started really feeling that sense, like, oh man, I could really add some like this and this and this, you know, I got pretty far out there on some of that stuff. So I wrote to the songs, and it was like, it felt so inviting, you know, and Kendrick would be sitting there sometimes, because I had it right there. They wouldn't let me take the music home with me. I was like writing in the studio, and I had my little room that I was, you know, writing music in, and, you know, I had these ideas, and they were like, all right, let's go record them. And, you know, I didn't hear it on the music until we recorded it, you know? And then I didn't know what was going to be. Then they take it back.
What makes it or not?
It's like radio silence until like it dropped. And when I heard it, and I was like, oh, wow, it's beautiful, man. Like, yeah, I mean, they're geniuses, you know, Kendrick, and Soundwave, Terrace, like the way they were able to then round it off. And, yeah, it was, yeah. it was definitely, I felt very blessed to be a part of that. You know,
Absolutely.
it's a historic record, and to be able to contribute to it was it was like a huge honor.
Let's go.